اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Thank you, Sheikh Al-Kareem.
Allah حفظكم إن شاء الله.
Inshallah, before we get to the questions, we want to take this moment to share, as we have shared before, with regards to the documentary that has been published on June 3rd, with regards to the life of Allama Tabatabai. So here is the information that we have. This is something that fellow students have been working on. It is a montage, English dub montage of a 7-episode series that was already created by a group before and put together in a abridged version to help introduce. It's 40 minutes in total. Part 1 is about 20 minutes and part 2 is also about 20 minutes. And inshallah, you can take a look at the KLC channel. It's available there, and also it's available on the Telegram group. The links have been shared there. So inshallah, I hope you enjoy, and please do share your feedback so that we can be informed on how to improve this type of work, bi'idhnillah.
Inshallah. And I would like to thank Brother Mubarak and Brother Jihad and Sister Wed for working tirelessly on this, and it recommend everyone to really watch carefully this. The main series, or the original one, as Brother Jihad said, it's in Farsi in 7 episodes. So the team has carefully selected some of the points, the main points, to make it shorter, and very carefully translated and dubbed very nicely, professionally. So I hope inshallah this would be beneficial and help us and our community, even people outside community, to appreciate such godly scholar like Allama Tabatabai. And we pray for tawfiq for our brothers and sisters to inshallah continue this great work, and inshallah introducing also some other scholars bi'iznillah. So please watch and recommend and comment, so that inshallah for the next one these comments can be taken into consideration, inshallah.
Inshallah, thank you very much, Sheikhna.
Ahsantum.
Again, a very special thanks to you for the guidance on this direction, and also very special thanks to my dear brother Wed and Alwi, my dear brother Mubarak and Alwi Wed, who have done most of the work. Somehow I am in the boat, but really I would like to allow their efforts in all of this. I pray that I can have tawfiq to help in the future. We have a number of questions, Sheikhna, alhamdulillah. Very timely, and it's always an important topic, so it gets more and more interesting. So inshallah, we like to take some questions. Here we go. The first question, bi'idhnillah, is as follows. Assalamu alaikum. Can you please kindly clarify the meaning of just checking that everything is good, the meaning of the word deen? We say religion, but many translate it as path. Would translating deen al-haq and the path of the truth rather than the true religion have implications on a relation with other groups? So I will repeat. Can you please clarify the meaning of the word deen? We say religion, but many translate it as path. Would translating deen al-haq and as the path of the truth rather than the true religion have implications on our relations with other groups?
Of course, for such important topics, we cannot decide based on the meaning, the literal meaning. Whatever is the literal meaning is not going to affect that much our understanding. What is important is what is meant by this. For example, someone says religion is first used in the sense of jaza, as Ayatollah Jawadi Amali said, deen means jaza, recompensation. Someone may say religion is path, is the way. So these are good discussions and sometimes can be very helpful. But what is important is what is meant technically by religion. And here we don't have difference about what is meant by religion in the Quran. So we should not take those things about the literal meaning very, very seriously about this, scholarly discussions. It's very good to know that. Sometimes helps, but it's wrong to try to solve these technical issues with just what was the original meaning of this term.
Thank you. The part two of the question is a lot of movements that reacted to corruption within religions have fitri values. Can it be the basis of interacting with them at the same level as religious groups?
Can this brother or sister give an example?
The question is saying that those people who sought to reform religion, or at least they claim that they wanted to reform religion, they were motivated by fitri values, or they were holding on to fitri values. So does this mean that this is a way for us to somehow connect with them? If you'd like to clarify, Sister Anna, you can go ahead. I'm trying to interpret. Go ahead, you can clarify, please. Thank you so much.
Alaikum salam.
So basically I meant people or movements who rejected religion on a reactionary basis. Maybe they had leaders had different ideas, but most people supported it because of the reaction. For example, lack of rationality, or corruption, or really bad practices, or unfair attitude to other religions, for example, or inequality, like religion defending certain types of inequality, or aristocratism, or predestination. So a person basically says, well, I can't respect that, it doesn't make any sense. So in a way, I would say they would be closer to the actual religion, to the truth. And they're making, at that time, for example, they had to undergo through difficulties to make that choice. People would turn against them because religion was mainstream at that time. And they couldn't take some things anymore, and they would go against it. So they would actually take an effort to choose something that they believed was right, was the truth. So a lot of movements are based on this, and a lot of people up to this day are like this. Like the only version of religion they know doesn't make sense. They open the certain scriptures, they say, well, how should they respect something like that? They see some edited things, they cannot accept it. And they don't know Islam, like even if they know Islam, again, they know something that doesn't make sense, something that's delivered to them. So they say, there's no way I can accept that. So that's why I prefer this. And like they say, this ideology or that ideology. So wouldn't these people be closer to what we call din al-haq, and like wouldn't it be the basis of actually interacting with them at a closer level?
I don't know. For me, your voice, sorry, was.
What I understood, Sheikhna, if I can try to relay, is that the people who have not everybody, but a lot of the people who have historically rejected religion or denominational religion in the past or even today are on the basis of fitri principles.
Mm-hmm. Those who rejected.
Many of them, yes. Even they rejected religion seem to be on fitri principles, like the rejection of injustice, rejection of inequality, and so on. And also at great cost. Because at that time, maybe in certain places, this may have been at great cost because everybody was religious. So such people may seem to, she's arguing that maybe they are closer, maybe they can be seen as closer and more relatable to somebody who is a true religious person because they are closer to the fitrah. Mm-hmm. How do we look at this in that way?
Yeah, this is a very good question. Unfortunately, sometimes religions or religious communities little by little will be so much loaded with formalities, with rituals, with customs, that they become something against what Allah wanted. Sometimes religion is used to justify slavery, is justify to use colonialism, violence, like what ISIS is doing in the name of religion, for example. There have been crusades, for example. Also religion was used to justify crusades. So this is a problem. Or sometimes, for example, some religious structures become too aristocratic, or, for example, too much in favor of rich people, or etc. So some people who want to do reform, some people think that this cannot be religion. But the problem is that if this is not done carefully, then you may destroy the whole trust of people in religion, and would not be able to replace it with what is the true religion, for example. So you have to be very careful. Any person who wants to bring reform to a religious tradition has to be very careful, very, very careful. This is not easy operation, especially because on the one hand people are very emotional when it comes to religion. On the other hand, there is always tendency in some human beings to rebel against religion and any discipline and any structure. So we have to be very careful not to end up with damaging religion altogether. So something that I think we need to be always, as religious people, concerned about is how to match between fitra and our religious tradition. Fitra is not enough. So you cannot say, okay, we have fitra, we don't need religion. We don't need sharia, we don't need scholars, we don't need jurists, we don't need tradition. No, fitra is not enough. But the religious tradition cannot disregard fitra altogether, cannot become against our moral conscience, cannot make us totally isolated from other human beings. This is a very important topic, and I always, try. It's very difficult for me, of course. I try to find a way that I, as a Shia Muslim scholar brought up in Qom, how can I speak to human beings? I love to speak to my community, of course, but I also want to speak to human beings. How can I love to human beings? Part of it is that I should love them. Part of it is I should know their problems, their concerns, their issues. Part of it is that I should have a logic, a reasoning, a language, not just language in the sense of English, language of the heart, language of the fitrah. When the prophets were talking, pagans, atheists, polytheists, or believers in other religions, they were able to understand, they were able to see truth in it if their heart was open. So if today I speak and only my community understands and appreciates, I think this is a problem. It means that we have gone away from the path of the prophets. Maybe we can say some people are good to be scholars for our community, for example. But we need also people who be prophets for humanity. Not prophets in the sense of receiving revelation, but meaning to follow the job of the prophets and do delivery of message to humanity. Not just scholars of same community, scholars for humanity. So fitra is very important, but it's not enough. And because sometimes people who reformists, they question everything, and that's by the way of simplifying things, as if anything above fitra is not needed, Sharia is not needed, for example. Just have good heart and follow certain moral principles, and that's enough. No, we need more, but never by sacrificing fitra, by sacrificing human universal values. I don't know if I answered your question or not, because was not clear for me exactly. The voice was cutting or echoing. I hope I answered.
Thank you, Sheikh. Two more questions here. When we talked about the concept that Sharia is a way to the river, which is the metaphor for religion, this means that everyone has their Sharia.
Everyone?
Well, that's what the question says. Everyone has their Sharia. We should not be objecting to other people's practices. With the concept of Sharia as a way to the river, then we should not have any objection of Sharia of other people, which becomes a wide concept. Is this a misunderstanding? Should this be understood better? Does this mean that everybody can do as they like, because that's their path to the river?
Someone like Ayatollah Jawadi Amali would answer, this Sharia is given by Allah. لَكُلًّا جَعَلْنَا مِنْكُمْ شَرْعَةً. So I cannot create my own path or access to the river. These are defined and designed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not that every person or every, for example, ethnicity, they say, we want to have our own Sharia. Or we are women, we want to have our own Sharia. We are men, we want to have our own Sharia.
Thank you, Sheikh. And in terms of the Shara and Minhaj today, how do we understand this today? How should we look at it today? Because, for example, Christians, Jews, maybe other religions, how do we look at that? Is this something that's early to discuss now, or will be covered later? Maybe the question is also asking about this.
This is a very important question. And so far we established that the same river, same religion. Okay? And different Sharia. Now, another question arises that we leave it for future. What should we do when now all these communities have continued? So those who were, for example, in the time of Prophet Musa and followed that Sharia, okay. Those who were at the time of Prophet Isa and followed that Sharia. But what about now? That we have Jews, we have Christians, and we have Muslims. Does it mean that all these three Sharia are still accepted by Allah, are pleasing to Allah, or only one Sharia is pleasing to Allah, or there are degrees? This is a very important question that inshallah we can discuss in future. Of course, in some places I have discussed this, but I think it's better not to discuss it now. It's early.
Thank you very much. I think that pretty much covers it for the questions. And again, we can reformulate our questions. If you would like to continue the interaction, the conversation, more than welcome to do that. Today we're at almost 4:15 mark, so we're at past the 1 hour. I think perhaps we should close and